Hello, dear viewers. I am a global nationalist. I support nationalism in my country, India, and in all countries around the globe. Today is the second Sunday of the month, and so as per my schedule, I will be talking about the Shanghai Co-operation Organization. Today, I want to talk about the SCO in general and with reference particularly to the SCO Summit last month in September in Tajikistan. The SCO is an organization of 8 countries: uh, Russia, China, India, Pakistan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. These countries are in Asia, are Asian countries, and specifically in the Central Asian and East Asia region. And they have formed SCO to work together to for diplomatic and economic business. Mainly, it's diplomatic and economic. There is a military dimension to this group, but it's not a military alliance. They do engage in counterterrorism operations together, but that is the limit of their military cooperation. Now, the summit that happened in September last year was a regular SCO summit where all the heads of state spoke. I'll be talking about what each country stated in that uh, summit. The first I want to talk about is Tajikistan, which simply uh, thanked all the members for coming for that summit. It was a virtual summit, and the president of Tajikistan thanked all the members for participating in it and said that what the roadmap of the meeting would be, and that the main object of the meeting would be how to handle the change in power in Afghanistan after the collapse of the previous Afghan government and the withdrawal of foreign forces. They said that stability in Afghanistan is necessary and that they want to work with all the countries in the SCO and other countries outside the SCO in granting recognition to the Taliban government. The other Central Asian countries said similar things. Pakistan said that they are happy that there was relatively no bloodshed in the takeover of Afghanistan by the Taliban. They said that they were happy that there were no mass refugee exodus. This is what they claimed. And that they said that outside forces and countries should not interfere in Afghanistan's politics, and said that, and did not say that whether or not they would recognize the Taliban government. They have not made a clear stand on that. The Pakistani Prime Minister spoke here. The Russian President Vladimir Putin said that the Taliban government in Afghanistan is not inclusive, and it does not include all ethnic groups. However, he said that it is also important that they engage with it to prevent instability from rising in Afghanistan. The Chinese president said that mainly now that Af- Afghanistan is free from the foreign forces, it should be allowed to manage its own affairs, and somewhat gave some support to the Taliban, but did not go as far as saying that they are the legitimate government. India took the stance which was most against the Taliban, saying that the Taliban are not inclusive and that they were not democratically elected, that they discriminate against women, and therefore countries should not rush to recognize the Taliban government. This was said by Prime Minister Modi, who said the same in the UNGA a few weeks later in New York. So, and he also said that terrorism must not be allowed to grow from Afghanistan and that it must be combated by all the member states of the SCO. Now, my thoughts on this summit are that I think that their positions on Afghanistan, for each of them, have their own valid reasons, but I mainly agree with the Russian position and the Indian position, a combination of both, where Russia said that although there were obvious problems within the Taliban government, that they weren't inclusive, and that there were still uh, bad, like unfavorable things happening in Afghanistan, that there still need to be some engagement with the Taliban. They did not want to completely uh, cut off the Taliban and like so I agree with them on the second on both parts actually that yes the Taliban government does discriminate against women and Hazaras and other ethnic groups including religious minorities like Hindus and Sikhs. But however, I don't think that this is reason enough to not recognize them. I think that now that the Northern Alliance has fallen and that all of Afghanistan is under Taliban control, that we, the countries should recognize the Taliban as a um, proper government of Afghanistan. It's the only power there that has sovereign control over the territory of Afghanistan. If, however, a civil war or a civil dis, peaceful movement happens that overthrows the Taliban government, then again we would have to restart the process. So I don't think that I like the Russian position that whatever is happening within Afghanistan should be its internal matter, and we should not uh, determine our decision to recognize or de-recognize the Taliban based on their internal policies in Afghanistan. However, I also agree with them that they should not, no country should unilaterally recognize the Taliban government. They should work with all countries or as many countries as possible when making the decision to recognize or not recognize them. The Indian position that the Taliban should not be uh, recognized because of their discrimination against women and other minority groups is not something I agree with. That is an internal matter for Afghanistan to resolve. And I don't think that foreign countries should uh, comment on that and should not make their decision to recognize or not the Taliban based on that. However, I do appreciate India's emphasis on terrorism emanating from Afghanistan, which is a major problem, at least a major potential problem. And India already has terrorists growing in activity in Kashmir, and there was last month a terrorist attack foiled by India's intelligence agencies. Whether or not this were being supported by the Taliban has not been confirmed, and I don't think it is. But I do think that jihadist groups in India and around the world will be inspired by the Taliban to be more aggressive in their attacks. And so I do appreciate India's stand to not recognize Taliban if they support terrorism. And I think until the Taliban completely uh, disconnect from the Al Qaeda, they arrest and convict and imprison Al Qaeda members and leaders and other terrorist groups. Only then can we truly accept them as a proper country, a proper government. And yeah, so basically what I would want for the SCO to do with regards to Afghanistan is to make sure that the Taliban is pressured to act against terrorism in order to gain recognition. So it's a combination of both the Indian and the Russian positions together. And also, things that happened in the SCO summit were that Iran was made a member of the group. And I think this is important because Iran is also a country within the region and should have a voice in the SCO. And it has friendly relations with most of the countries except Pakistan. And this is also good for India because Iran has good relations with India. So I think this will be beneficial for the group as a whole. But the summit did not give a timeline for when Iran would be accepted as a member. They just said that they would be. So I have to wait to see what happens. And yeah, that's bit more the most important stuff that happened in the SCO summit last month. And I do believe it is an important group that, although it might not be a military alliance like NATO, it is a grouping, economic, diplomatic, and uh, military grouping with military exercises and trade between members. That is a good opposition force to the Western Bloc and is necessary to prevent NATO from completely dominating the world. And yeah, and this I say this with even though my country, India, has several differences with some of the members of the SCO, such as Pakistan and China. I still think it's good that they're there to protect the interests of the region. So yes, that's all that I wanted to say for this video. If you want to see my previous video, please click on the link given in the video. And yeah, that's all. Thank you for watching. Vande Mataram.